The Divine Pymander, by Hermes Trismegistus. Chapter 1. The Core Principles of Existence and Piety. O my son, I write this first volume for the benefit of humankind and in reverence toward God. For there exists no religion more true or more righteous than to comprehend existing things and to render gratitude for all creation unto Him who created them, an endeavor I shall never cease to pursue. What course, then, must a man pursue, O Father, to live righteously, given that naught in this realm is certain? Cultivate piety and devotion, O my son, for he who is thus disposed is the preeminent and most sublime philosopher. Indeed, devoid of philosophy, it is impossible to attain the plenitude and precision of true piety or devotion. Yet he who contemplates existing things, how they are ordered and governed, by whom, for what purpose and to what end, shall render thanksgiving to the craftsman as to a benevolent father, an exemplary nurse, and a faithful steward. He who offers gratitude shall possess piety, and he who is pious shall discern both where truth resides and what it is, and in acquiring this knowledge, his devotion shall continually increase. For never, O son, shall the soul that, whilst dwelling within the body, strives to ascend and comprehend that which is good and true, regress to its opposite. For it is bound in love therewith, oblivious to all evils, and having recognized its father and origin, it can never lapse nor depart from the good. And let this, O son, be the consummation of religion and devotion, that when thou hast attained it, thou shalt live righteously and depart this life in beatitude, thy soul cognizant of the destination to which it must return and ascend once more. For this alone, O son, is the path to truth, the way traversed by our ancestors, through which, in their pilgrimage, they ultimately attained the good. It is a venerable path, direct yet arduous and demanding for the soul that resides within the physical vessel. First, it must contend against itself, and after a prolonged struggle, one aspect must prevail. For the conflict is of one against two, wherein the former seeks to ascend while the latter twain endeavor to restrain it. Yet the triumph of either side is not identical, for the one hastens toward the good, whereas the others cling to evil. The good yearns for liberty, whilst evil cherishes bondage and servitude. Should the two be subdued, they remain tranquil and acquiesce to its sovereignty. But if the one is vanquished by the two, it is dragged by them toward chastisement through its protracted existence in this realm. This, O son, is the guide to the path leading thither. For thou must first detach thyself from the body prior to thy demise, secure the victory in this conflict-laden existence, and, having triumphed, return. But now, O my son, I shall succinctly delineate the nature of existing things. Comprehend my discourse and retain that which thou hearest. All that exists is in motion, only that which does not exist is unmoved. Every body is mutable, not every body is dissoluble. Certain bodies are subject to dissolution. Not every animate being is mortal. Not every animate being is immortal. That which is susceptible to dissolution is likewise corruptible. That which endures eternally is immutable. That which is immutable is eternal. That which is perpetually generated is perpetually perishing. That which is created but once is never corrupted, nor does it transform into any other entity. First, God. Second, the world. Third, man. The world exists for man. Man exists for God. Regarding the soul, the sensory aspect is mortal, whereas the rational aspect is immortal. Every essence is immortal. Every essence is immutable. Everything in existence is dual. Nothing in existence remains static. Not all entities are animated by a soul, yet everything that undergoes motion is moved by a soul. Everything that experiences suffering is sentient, and everything that is sentient experiences suffering. Everything that experiences sorrow likewise rejoices, being a mortal animate creature. Not all that rejoices experiences sorrow. Rather, such is an eternal animate being. Not every physical body is afflicted with sickness, yet every diseased body is subject to dissolution. Mind resides in God, reasoning in man, and reason within the mind. The mind is exempt from suffering. Nothing within the body possesses truth. All that is incorporeal is devoid of falsehood. Everything that is created is corruptible. Nothing good resides upon the earth, and nothing evil exists in heaven. God is good. Man is evil. Good is voluntary. Evil is contrary to the will. The gods select that which is good as good. Time is divine. Law is human. Malice sustains the world. Time is the deterioration of man. All that resides in heaven is immutable. All upon earth is subject to mutability. Nothing in heaven is subjugated. Nothing upon earth is free. Nothing is unknown in heaven. Nothing is known upon earth. Earthly matters do not commune with those of heaven. All entities in heaven are blameless. All entities upon earth are subject to reprehension. That which is immortal is not mortal. That which is mortal is not immortal. That which is sown is not invariably begotten, but that which is begotten is invariably sown. For a dissoluble body there exist two periods of time, the first from sowing to generation, the second from generation to death. For an everlasting body, time commences only from its generation. Dissoluble bodies increase and diminish. Dissoluble matter is transformed into contraries, namely, corruption and generation, whereas eternal matter is transformed into itself and its likeness. The generation of man is corruption. The corruption of man is the inception of generation. That which produces offspring or begets another is itself an offspring or begotten by another. Among existing things, some reside in bodies, while others reside in their ideas. Whatever things pertain to operation or activity reside within a body. That which is immortal does not partake of that which is mortal. That which is mortal does not enter an immortal body, whereas that which is immortal enters that which is mortal. Operations or activities are not directed upward, but descend downward. Earthly things yield no advantage to those in heaven, yet all things in heaven benefit and profit earthly things. Heaven is capable of receiving and is a fitting receptacle for everlasting bodies. The earth for corruptible bodies. The earth is unreasoning, whereas heaven is rational. Those things within heaven are situated beneath it, whereas things on earth are positioned upon it. Heaven is the primary element. Providence is divine order. Necessity is the minister or servant of providence. Fortune is the course or effect of that which is devoid of order, the idol of activity, a deceptive fantasy or opinion. What is God? The immutable and unalterable good. What is man? An immutable evil. If thou dost perfectly retain these principal points, thou canst not forget those matters which I have elsewhere expounded to thee at greater length. For these constitute the essence and compendium thereof. Avoid all discourse with the multitude or the common people, for I would not have thee subject to envy, much less rendered an object of ridicule to the populace. For like always associates with like, whereas the unlike never harmonizes with the unlike. Such discourses as these have very few auditors, and perchance very few they shall ever have. Yet they possess a quality peculiar to themselves. Indeed, they serve rather to sharpen and whet the malice of wicked men. Therefore, it behooves thee to shun the multitude and beware of them, since they comprehend neither the virtue nor the power of the words spoken. What is thy meaning, O Father? In this manner, O Son, the entire nature and constitution of those living creatures designated as men is exceedingly prone to malice, being highly familiar with it and, as it were, nurtured by it. Consequently, they delight in it. Now, should this creature learn or come to know that the world was once created, and that all events transpire in accordance with providence, necessity, destiny, or fate which hold dominion over all, will he not become far worse than his natural self, despising the cosmos because it was created? And if he may attribute the cause of evil to fate or destiny, he will never abstain from any wicked deed. Wherefore, we must exercise extreme caution regarding such persons, so that, remaining in ignorance, they may be deterred from evil through fear of that which is hidden and kept secret. Chapter 2. The Divine Vision of Creation and Human Destiny. My thoughts being once deeply occupied with the nature of existence, and my understanding highly elevated, my bodily senses were utterly subdued, much like those who are overcome by a profound slumber induced by either a surfeit of food or physical exhaustion. It seemed to me that I beheld a being of immense stature and infinite vastness, who called me by my name and inquired, "What wouldst thou hear and see? Or what wouldst thou comprehend, to learn and to know?" Then I said, "Who art thou?" "I am," he replied, "Pymander, the mind of the sovereign Lord, the most mighty and absolute ruler. I am aware of thy desires, and I am ever present with thee." Then I said, "I desire to learn of the things that exist, to understand their nature, and to know God." "In what manner?" he inquired. I answered I would gladly listen. He then rejoined, "Keep me ever in thy mind, and whatsoever thou desirest to learn, I shall instruct thee." As he spoke these words, his form was transfigured, and instantly, in the twinkling of an eye, all things were revealed unto me. I beheld a boundless vision wherein all existence was transformed into light, a light both sweet and exceedingly pleasant, and I was filled with wondrous delight in its contemplation. Yet, after a brief interval, a darkness descended obliquely over a portion of the vision, fearful and hideous, which appeared to me to transform into a certain moist nature, unspeakably troubled. It emitted a smoke as if from a fire, and from it there issued an unutterable and deeply mournful, yet inarticulate voice, which seemed to emanate from the light. Then, from that very light, a certain holy word united itself with nature, and there flew forth from the moist nature a pure and unalloyed fire, rising to the heights above. It was exceedingly light, penetrating, and active, and the air, which was likewise light, followed the spirit and ascended toward the fire, so that it appeared to suspend and depend upon it. The earth and the water remained below, so thoroughly intermingled that the earth was imperceptible beneath the water. Yet they were set in motion by the spiritual word that moved upon them. Then Pymander said to me, "Dost thou understand this vision, and what it portendeth?" "I shall indeed know," I answered. Then he said, "I am that light, the mind, thy God, who existed before the moist nature that emerged from the darkness. And that luminous and radiant word proceeding from the mind is the Son of God. How can this be? I asked. Understand it thus, he replied. That which within thee sees and hears is the word of the Lord, while the mind is God the Father. They differ not one from the other, and their union is life. Trismegistus, I offer thee my thanks. Pymander, but first, conceive the light clearly within thy mind, and contemplate it. Having spoken these words, we gazed steadfastly upon each other for a long duration, so that I trembled before his form. Yet, when he nodded to me, I perceived in my mind the light that dwells in innumerable numbers, and the truly boundless order of the universe. And I saw that the fire is contained and governed by an exceedingly great power, constrained to preserve its station. These matters I comprehended through the word of Pymander, and as I stood in utter amazement, he spoke to me once more. Hast thou perceived in thy mind that archetypal form which existed before the boundless and infinite beginning? Thus did Pymander address me. But whence, I inquired, or from what source are the elements of nature derived? Pymander, they are born of the will and counsel of God, which, having received the word and beheld the beautiful cosmos, imitated it, thereby fashioning this world through its own principles and vital seeds, or soul-like emanations. For the mind, which is God, being both male and female, life and light, brought forth by his word another mind, the workman, who, being the God of fire and spirit, fashioned and formed 7 governors, who in their concentric circles encompass the sensible world, and whose administration is called fate or destiny. Immediately the word of God leaped forth, exalting itself from the downward-born elements of God into the pure and unblemished workmanship of nature, and was united with the workman mind, for it was consubstantial with him. Thus the downward-born elements of nature were left devoid of reason, remaining as mere matter. Yet the workman mind, together with the word, encompassing the circles and whirling them about, rotated his own creation like a wheel, permitting them to revolve from an indefinite beginning to an endless consummation, for they ever begin where they end. And this circular motion, directed by the will of the mind, produced from the lower, downward-born elements irrational and brutish creatures, for they possessed no reason. The air brought forth winged fowl and the water creatures that swim. The earth and the water were separated from one another in accordance with the will of the mind, and the earth brought forth from herself the living creatures she contained, 4-footed beasts and creeping things, both wild and tame. But the Father of all things, the mind, which is life and light, begot man, who was like unto himself, and whom he loved as his own offspring. For man was altogether beautiful, bearing the image of his Father. Indeed, God was deeply enamored of his own likeness, and delivered unto him all of his creations. Yet man, beholding and comprehending the creation of the workman in its entirety, desired also to create, and was thus separated from the Father, entering into the sphere of generation and activity. Possessing all authority, he contemplated the works of the 7 governors, who loved him, and each of them made him a partaker in his own sphere. And having diligently studied and understood their essence, and sharing in their nature, he resolved to penetrate and break through the boundaries of the circles, and to comprehend the power of him who sits upon the fire. Thus, possessing all power over mortal things, over the living, and over the irrational creatures of the world, he bent down and peered through the harmony, and having broken through the strength of the circles, he revealed and made manifest to the downward-born nature the beautiful form of God. When nature beheld this form, which possessed within itself insatiable beauty, all the power of the 7 governors, and the very likeness of God, she smiled with love, as though she had seen the image of the fairest human form reflected in the water, or its shadow cast upon the earth. And seeing a likeness of himself reflected in the water, he loved it and desired to dwell with it, and no sooner had he resolved to do so than the act was accomplished, and he inhabited the irrational form. Nature immediately embraced the object of her love, wrapping herself entirely about him, and they commingled, for they loved one another exceedingly. And for this reason man, above all other living things upon the earth, is of a dual nature, mortal because of his body, and immortal by virtue of the essential man. For though he is immortal and has authority over all things, he must yet suffer mortal experiences and submit to the dictates of fate or destiny. Thus, although he stands above the harmony, he has become a servant to it. And being androgynous, both male and female, and ever vigilant, he is ruled by and subjected to a father who is likewise male and female, and ever watchful. After these disclosures, I said, "Thou art my mind, and I am enamored of reason." Then Pymander said, "This is the mystery that remains hidden and secret to this day. For nature, having commingled with man, brought forth a most wondrous marvel. Since man possessed the nature of the harmony of the 7, derived from the fire and the spirit as I have told thee, nature did not tarry, but straightway brought forth 7 men, all male and female, elevated and sublime, corresponding to the natures of the 7 governors. And after these things, O Pymander, I said, I am filled with a great desire and longing to hear more. Do not digress, nor cease thy discourse. But he replied, Keep silence, for I have not yet concluded my first discourse. Trismegistus, behold, I am silent. Pymander, the generation of these 7, therefore, occurred in this manner. The air, being feminine, and the water, desiring copulation, received from the fire its maturity, and from the ether spirit. Thus did nature bring forth bodies according to the species and form of men. And man was fashioned of life and light into soul and mind, of life was the soul composed, and of light the mind. Thus all the constituents of the sensible world continued until the consummation of the epoch, governing and generating. Hearken now to the remainder of that discourse which thou so greatly desirest to hear. Upon the completion of that epoch, the bond of all things was dissolved by the will of God. For all living creatures, being androgynous, were separated along with man, so that the males existed apart, and likewise the females. And straightway God spoke to the holy word, Increase in increasing, and multiply in multitude, all ye my creatures and handiworks. And let him who is endowed with mind recognize himself as immortal, and understand that the cause of death is the love of the body, and let him learn all things that exist. When he had spoken thus, Providence, through fate and harmony, affected the mixtures and established the generations. Thus all things were multiplied according to their kind, and he who knew himself attained at last the superessential good, which is substantial in every way. But he who, through the delusion of love, cherished the body, remains wandering in darkness, bound to the senses, enduring the conditions of death. Trismegistus, but why do those who are ignorant transgress so greatly, that they should thereby be deprived of immortality? Pymander, thou appearest not to have comprehended that which thou hast heard. Trismegistus, perchance I seem so to thee, Yet I both understand and retain these words in memory. Pymander, I rejoice on thy behalf, if indeed thou hast understood them. Trismegistus, tell me, wherefore are they worthy of death, who dwell in death? Pymander, because a somber and dismal darkness precedes the body, from which darkness arises the moist nature. Of this moist nature the body is constituted within the sensible world, and from this source death is derived. Hast thou understood this aright? Trismegistus, but wherefore or how does he who understands himself ascend into God? Pymander, I declare that which the word of God hath spoken. Because the Father of all things consists of life and light, from which man was fashioned. Trismegistus, thou speakest most truly. Pymander, God and the Father is light and life of which man is made. If, therefore, thou dost learn and believe thyself to be of the life and light, thou shalt return once more into life. Trismegistus, yet instruct me further, O my mind, how I may ascend into life. Pymander, God hath said, let the man endowed with a mind observe, consider, and know himself well. Trismegistus, do not all men possess a mind? Pymander, guard thy words. For I, the mind, come only unto those who are holy and good, pure and merciful, and who live devoutly and righteously, and my presence serves as an aid unto them. Straightway they comprehend all things, and with love they supplicate and propitiate the Father. Blessing him, they offer thanksgiving and sing hymns unto him, guided and directed by filial affection and natural love. And before they surrender their bodies to physical death, they detest their senses, knowing their works and operations. Nay, I, who am the mind itself, will not permit the operations or works belonging to the body to be consummated in them, but acting as the porter and gatekeeper, I shall close the entrances against evil, and intercept the lingering desires for impure deeds. But from the foolish, the wicked, the depraved, the envious, the covetous, the murderous, and the profane, I remain far distant, leaving them to the avenging demon, who, applying the severity of fire, torments such a man through his senses and incites him further to all manner of lawlessness, so that he may incur a still greater retribution. Thus, such a person never ceases to harbor insatiable desires and unquenchable lusts, forever battling in darkness. For the demon afflicts and torments him incessantly, compounding the fire upon him more and more. Trismegistus, thou hast, O mind, most excellently instructed me in all things according to my desire. Yet tell me further, once the return is accomplished, what follows then? Pymander, first, in the dissolution of the material body, the physical form is surrendered to alteration, and the shape it once possessed becomes invisible. Its inert habits are abandoned to the demon, and the bodily senses return to their respective sources, becoming individual parts and resolving once more into cosmic operations. Then anger and lust depart into the irrational nature, and the remainder strives upward through the harmony. Unto the first zone it surrenders the faculty of increase and decrease. Unto the second, the machination of evils and deceitful cunning. Unto the third, the hollow illusion of lust. Unto the fourth, the lust for dominance and insatiable ambition. Unto the fifth, profane audacity and headlong rashness. Unto the sixth, the evil strivings after wealth. And unto the seventh zone, the subtle falsehood that forever lies in wait. Thereupon, stripped of all the operations of the harmony, it ascends to the eighth sphere, possessing its inherent power, and sings praises to the Father in unison with the beings who dwell there. All who are present rejoice and welcome its arrival, and having become like unto those with whom it associates, it also hears the powers that reside above the eighth sphere, singing praises to God in a voice unique to themselves. Thereafter, in orderly succession, they ascend unto the Father, and surrender themselves to the powers, and having themselves become powers, they dwell in God. This is the ultimate good, the consummation for those who possess knowledge, to be deified. Why then dost thou delay? What remains for thee but to comprehend all things, that thou mayest become a guide and leader to those who are worthy, so that the human race may be saved through God? When Pymander had spoken thus, he merged into the powers. But I, offering thanksgiving and blessing the Father of all things, arose empowered by him, having been instructed in the nature of the universe and having beheld the supreme vision. Thereupon, I began to proclaim to mankind the beauty and splendor of piety and knowledge. O ye peoples, children of the earth, who have surrendered yourselves to drunkenness, slumber, and the ignorance of God, awaken to sobriety, and cease your dissipation, whereunto you have been enticed by irrational sleep. And those who heard me approached willingly and with one accord, whereupon I spoke further. Wherefore, O men born of the earth, have you surrendered yourselves unto death, when you possess the power to partake of immortality? Repent and reform your minds, ye who have walked together in error and have been shrouded in ignorance. Depart from this dim light, participate in immortality, and forsake corruption. And some of those who heard me, mocking and deriding, turned away and abandoned themselves to the path of death. Yet others, prostrating themselves at my feet, implored me to instruct them. But I, raising them up, became a guide to mankind, teaching them the principles and the means by which they might be saved. I sowed within them the words of wisdom, and nourished them with the ambrosial water of immortality. And when evening fell, and the light of the sun began entirely to recede, I commanded them to render thanks to God. And when they had completed their thanksgiving, each returned to his own dwelling. But I inscribed within my heart the bounty and beneficence of Pymander, and being filled with that which I most desired, I rejoiced exceedingly. For the slumber of the body became the sober vigilance of the mind. The closing of my eyes was transformed into true vision. My silence was pregnant with goodness, and the utterance of my words became the blossom and fruit of virtuous things. Thus transpired that which I received from my intellect, namely Pymander, the Lord of the Word, whereby I was divinely inspired with the truth. For this cause, with my entire soul and utmost strength, I offer praise and benediction unto God the Father. Holy is God, the Father of all things. Holy is God, whose will is performed and accomplished by his own sovereign powers. Holy is God, who determines to be known and is recognized by his own, or those who belong to him. Holy art thou, who by thy word hast established all things. Holy art thou, of whom all nature is the mirror image. Holy art thou, whom nature hath not fashioned. Holy art thou, who art mightier than all power. Holy art thou, who art superior to all excellence. Holy art thou, who art loftier than all praise. Accept these rational sacrifices from a pure soul and a heart directed toward thee. O thou ineffable, unutterable, to be adored in silence, I beseech thee that I may never deviate from the knowledge of thee. Look upon me with mercy, empower me, and illuminate with this grace those who remain in ignorance, who are my kindred, yet thy sons. Therefore, I believe in thee, bear witness, and advance into life and light. Blessed art thou, O Father. Thy servant seeks sanctification in union with thee, even as thou hast granted him all authority. Chapter 3. Unveiling God, Goodness, and the Soul's Transformation. The glory of all things is God, the divine, and the divine nature, which constitutes the origin of all existence. God, the intellect, nature, matter, operation or agency and necessity, as well as the ultimate end and renovation. For within the chaos there existed an infinite darkness in the abyss, alongside water and a subtle, intelligent spirit of potent power. Thence emerged the holy light, and the elements coagulated from the sand out of the moist substance. All the deities then discerned this nature, which was replete with seeds. When all things remained indeterminate and unformed, the lighter elements were partitioned aloft, while the heavier substances were established upon the moist sand, all elements being demarcated by fire and sustained or suspended by the spirit that bore them, while the heavens appeared in 7 concentric spheres. The deities were manifested in the celestial archetypes of the stars, along with all their constellations, and the stars were numbered, each containing its respective divinity. The entire sphere was enveloped in air, carried in a circular orbit by the Spirit of God. Each deity, through his inherent power, executed his divine mandate. Thus were fashioned quadrupeds, creeping beasts, aquatic creatures, and winged fowl, together with every fruitful seed, herb, and the blossoms of all verdure, which contained within themselves the seeds of regeneration. There also arose the generations of mankind, destined to comprehend divine works, to serve as a vital testament to nature, to grow into a vast multitude, to hold dominion over all things beneath the heavens, to acquire the knowledge of goodness, and to increase and multiply abundantly. Every soul clad in flesh was destined, through the wondrous operations of the deities within the celestial spheres, to contemplate the heavens, the gods, divine handiworks, and the operations of nature, seeking signs of goodness, the comprehension of divine power, and the discovery of every ingenious art. Thus did life begin within them, rendering them wise in accordance with the cyclical operations of the celestial deities, to be ultimately resolved into enduring monuments and memorials of the exquisite works wrought upon the earth, leaving them to be deciphered through the obscurity of ages. Consequently, every generation of living flesh, of fruit, of seed, and of all handicrafts, though they may perish, must of necessity be restored through the renewal of the deities and the nature of the cosmic circle moving in numerical order. For it is a divine ordinance that every terrestrial constitution be renewed by nature, since within the divine, nature itself is firmly established. Chapter 4. Unveiling God, Goodness, and the Soul's Transformation. Yesterday's discourse, O Asclepius, I dedicated unto thee. That of today is fittingly inscribed to Tat, as it constitutes an epitome of the general discourses addressed to him. God, therefore, and the Father and the good O Tat possess the selfsame nature, or rather, the selfsame act and operation. For there is one designation of nature and generation concerning mutable things, and another concerning immutable and immovable things, namely the divine and the human, each of which he wills to be as it is. Yet, operation or agency belongs to another source or location, as we have demonstrated in other matters, both divine and human, which must likewise be understood here. For his operation or act is his will, and his essence is to will that all things exist. For what is God and the Father and the good, if not the potential being of all things that do not yet exist, and the very existence of those that do. This is God, this is the Father, this is the good, to which no other entity can be compared or approach. For the world, and the Son, which is also a Father by participation, are not thereby equally the source of goodness and of life to living creatures. And if this be so, the Son is entirely constrained by the will of the good, without which it is impossible either to exist or to be engendered. The Father, however, is the cause of his children, possessing the will both to sow and to nourish that which is good through the agency of the Son. For the good is perpetually active in creation, and this attribute can reside in no other save him who receives nothing, yet wills all things to be. For I shall not say, O Tat, that he makes them, since a maker is subject to the limitations of time, wherein he occasionally ceases to make, as well as of quantity and quality, sometimes producing things of specific measure and trait, and at other times the reverse. But God is the Father and the good in that he is all things. For he both wills to be this and is indeed so, and yet all of this exists for the sake of him who is capable of perceiving it. For all other things exist for this purpose. It is the inherent property of the good to be known. This is the good, O Tat. Tat. Thou hast filled us, O Father, with a vision both sublime and beautiful, and the eye of my intellect is well nigh sanctified by this contemplation. Trismegistus. I marvel not at this, for the perception of the good is unlike the beam of the sun, which, by its fiery and brilliant radiance, dazzles and blinds the eye of the beholder. On the contrary, it illuminates, increasing the receptivity of the eye to the degree that one is capable of receiving the influx of this intelligible clarity. For it is swifter and sharper to pierce, yet entirely harmless and replete with immortality, and those who are capable of absorbing this spectacle and vision frequently transcend the physical frame, falling asleep to the body to enter this most fair and exquisite vision, a state which our progenitors, Coelus and Saturn, attained. Tat. Would that we also, O Father, might attain this state. Trismegistus. I would that we could, O Son. Yet, for the present, we are less focused upon the vision, and cannot yet open the eyes of our minds to behold the incorruptible and incomprehensible beauty of that good. But we shall perceive it when we have naught to say concerning it. For the knowledge of it is a divine silence, and the repose of all the senses. For he who understands it can comprehend nothing else, nor can he who beholds it look upon any other object, nor hear any other sound, nor, in sum, move his physical frame. For, shining steadfastly upon and around the entire intellect, it illuminates the whole soul, releasing it from bodily senses and movements, drawing it away from the physical vessel, and transforming it entirely into the essence of God. For it is possible for the soul, O Son, to be deified while it yet dwells within the human body, if it contemplates the beauty of the good. Tat. In what manner dost thou mean deification? Father. Trismegistus. There are distinctions, O Son, among all souls. Tat. But how, then, dost thou classify these transitions? Trismegistus. Have you not heard in the general discourses that from the single soul of the universe proceed all those souls which are dispersed throughout the cosmos, buffeted to and fro, as it were, and individually divided? Of these souls there are many transmutations, some into a more fortunate state and some quite contrary. For those of creeping things are changed into those of aquatic creatures, and those of things living in the water into those of things living upon the land, and aerial ones are changed into men, and human souls, having laid hold of immortality, are changed into demons. And so they progress into the sphere or region of the fixed deities. For there are two choirs of gods, one of those that wander, and another of those that remain fixed. And this is the most perfect glory of the soul. But the soul entering into the body of a man, if it continue evil, shall neither taste of immortality, nor participate in the good. But being drawn backward along the same path, it returns into creeping things. And this is the condemnation of a malevolent soul. And the wickedness of a soul is ignorance. For the soul that knows nothing of existing things, neither their nature nor that which is good, but is blinded, rushes headlong and dashes against corporeal passions. And, wretched as it is, ignorant of itself, it serves alien and corrupt bodies, bearing the body as a burden, and not ruling but being ruled. And this is the affliction of the soul. On the contrary, the virtue of the soul is knowledge. For he who knows is both virtuous and devout, and already divine. But who is such a one, O Father, Trismegistus, he who neither speaks nor hears many things? For he, O Son, who hears dual discourses or perceptions, contends with shadows. For God, the Father, and the good can be neither spoken of nor heard. This being so, the senses are inherent in all existing things because they cannot exist without them. But knowledge differs greatly from sensory perception. For sensation is of things that overpower it, but knowledge is the fulfillment of sense. Knowledge is the gift of God, for all knowledge is incorporeal, yet it employs the mind as its instrument, even as the mind employs the body. Therefore, both intelligible and material realities enter into bodies. For of contraposition, that is, the setting of one against another and contrariety, must all things consist. And it is impossible it should be otherwise. Who, therefore, is this material God, Trismegistus, the fair and beautiful cosmos, and yet it is not good. For it is material and highly passible, nay, it is the first of all passible things, the second of all existing entities, and ever in need of something other than itself. It was created once and exists perpetually, remaining ever in a state of generation, created, and continually creating or generating things possessing both quantity and quality. For it is mutable, and all material motion constitutes generation. But intellectual stability guides this material motion in the following manner. Inasmuch as the cosmos is a sphere, that is, a head, and above the head there is nothing material, even as beneath the feet there is nothing intellectual. The entire universe is material, the mind is the head, and its motion is spherical, resembling that of a head. Consequently, whatever is joined or united to the membrane or envelope of this head, wherein the soul resides, is immortal. And just as in the soul of a created body, its soul is filled with the body, so those entities further removed from that membrane possess a body filled with soul. The whole is a living creature, and therefore consists of both the material and the intellectual. And the cosmos is the primary, and man the second living creature after the cosmos, but the first of all mortal beings, and therefore possesses whatever spiritual benefits all other creatures enjoy. And yet, despite all this, he is not only devoid of goodness, but is fundamentally evil by virtue of his mortality. For the cosmos is not good inasmuch as it is mutable, nor is it evil inasmuch as it is immortal. But man is evil both because he is mutable and because he is mortal. But the soul of man is structured in this manner. The mind resides in reason, reason in the soul in the spirit, and the spirit in the body. The spirit, being diffused and permeating the veins, arteries, and blood, both animates the living creature and, in a certain manner, sustains it. For this reason, some have also believed the soul to be the blood, being deceived in nature, not knowing that the spirit must first retreat into the soul, whereupon the blood congeals, the veins and arteries are emptied, and the living being perishes. And this is the death of the body. All things depend upon a single origin, and that origin depends upon that which is one and solitary. And the origin is set in motion so that it may again serve as a beginning, but that which is one remains steadfast, abiding without motion. There exist, therefore, these three: God the Father and the good, the cosmos, and man. God encompasses the cosmos, and the cosmos encompasses man. And the cosmos is the Son of God, and man is, as it were, the offspring of the cosmos. For God is not ignorant of man, but knows him perfectly, and desires to be known by him. This alone is salutary to man, the knowledge of God. This is the return to Olympus. By this alone is the soul rendered good, not intermittently good and evil, but of necessity purely good. Tat. What do you mean, O Father? Trismegistus. Consider, O Son, the soul of a child, when as yet it has not suffered the dissolution of its body, which is not yet fully grown, but remains very small. If the soul then looks upon itself, it beholds its own beauty, having not yet been defiled by the passions of the body, but still, as it were, suspended from the soul of the world. But when the body grows and distracts the soul, it engenders forgetfulness, so that the soul no longer participates in the beautiful and the good, and this forgetfulness is itself evil. A similar process occurs in those who depart from the body. For when the soul retreats into itself, the spirit is contracted into the blood, and the soul into the spirit. The mind, however, having been purified and liberated from these vestments, and being divine by nature, assumes a fiery body and ranges freely throughout all space, leaving the soul to face judgment and the punishment it has merited. Tat. Why do you speak thus, O Father, asserting that the mind is separated from the soul, and the soul from the spirit, when but a moment ago you declared the soul to be the vestment of the mind, and the body the vestment of the soul? Trismegistus. O Son, he who listens must share the understanding and harmonize in thought with him who speaks. Indeed, his perception must be swifter and keener than the voice of the speaker. The arrangement of these vestments or coverings occurs within an earthly body. For it is impossible for the mind to establish or rest itself, naked and independent, within an earthly frame. Nor is the terrestrial body capable of enduring such immortality. Therefore, that it might sustain so great a virtue, the mind, as it were, enveloped itself in, and assumed, the passible body of the soul as a garment. And the soul, likewise being in some measure divine, employs the spirit as her minister and servant, while the spirit governs the living being. Consequently, when the mind is separated and departs from the earthly body, it immediately dons its fiery vestment, which it could not do while residing in a terrestrial frame. For earth cannot endure fire, being entirely consumed by a mere spark. Therefore, water is poured round about the earth as a bulwark or defense to withstand the consuming flame. But the mind, being the keenest and swiftest of all divine thoughts, and swifter than all the elements, has fire for its body. For the mind, which is the creator of all, employs fire as its instrument in its workmanship, even as the creator of all used it in the fashioning of all things, just as it is used by man for the creation of earthly things alone. For the mind upon earth, if devoid or naked of fire, can perform neither the works of men nor the affairs of God. Yet the soul of man, not indeed of every man, but of him who is pious and devout, is truly angelic and divine. And such a soul, having departed from the body and having fought the noble fight of piety, becomes either mind or God. The struggle of piety consists in knowing God and doing no injury to any man, and by this path it ascends to become mind. Conversely, an impious soul remains bound to its own essence, self-tormented, and seeking an earthly, human body to inhabit. For no other physical form is capable of receiving a human soul, nor is it permitted by divine law for the soul of man to descend into the body of an irrational beast. Indeed, it is the immutable decree of God to preserve the human soul from so profound a degradation and reproach. How then is the soul of man punished, O Father, and what constitutes its greatest torment? Hermes, impiety, my son. For what fire possesses a flame so intense, or what ravenous beast so tears the body as impiety ravages the soul? Or do you not perceive how many evils the wicked soul endures, wailing and crying aloud? I am burned, I am consumed. I know not what to say or do. I am devoured, unhappy wretch, by the evils that encompass and lay hold of me. Miserable that I am, I neither see nor hear anything. These are the lamentations of a punished and tormented soul, and it is not, as many believe, and as you, my son, suppose, that the soul upon departing the body becomes brutish or enters into a beast, which is a grave error, for the soul is punished in a far different manner. For the mind, when it is commanded or appointed to assume a fiery body for the service of God, descending into the wicked soul, torments it with the scourges of its own transgressions. Under these lashes, the wicked soul turns to murder, outrages, blasphemies, various acts of violence, and other deeds by which men are harmed. But when the mind enters a pious soul, it guides it into the light of divine knowledge. And such a soul is never weary of singing praises to God and speaking well of all men, ever performing good works both in word and deed, in imitation of its Father. Therefore, my son, we must offer thanks and pray that we may be granted a noble mind. Thus, the soul may be transformed for the better, but its degeneration into something worse is impossible. Furthermore, there exists a communion of souls. Those of the gods commune with those of men, and those of men with those of beasts. The superior always exercises stewardship over the inferior, gods over men, men over brute beasts, and God over all. For he is supreme, and all things are subordinate to him. Consequently, the world is subject to God, man to the world, and irrational creatures to man. But God is above all and encompasses all. The emanations of God are divine operations, the emanations of the world are natural forces, and the emanations of man are arts and sciences. These divine operations act through the medium of the world, influencing man via the natural emanations of the world, while nature operates through the elements, and man works through arts and sciences. And this is the governance of the universe, originating from the nature of the One, and descending through the unique mind, than which nothing is more divine, more efficacious, more unifying, or more singular. This is the communion of gods with men, and of men with God. This is the bonus genius, or benevolent spirit. Blessed is the soul that is filled therewith, and wretched is the soul that is devoid of it. And why is this so, Father? Trismegistus. Know, my son, that every soul possesses this benevolent mind, For it is of this we now speak, and not of that minister of whom we previously said that he was dispatched from the seat of judgment. For without the mind, the soul can neither act nor speak. Indeed, the mind frequently departs from the soul, and in that hour the soul neither sees. Do you want access to this and all the complete audiobooks on the channel, plus the ebook version? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code in the left corner of the screen to access our library, where you can listen to your favorite esoteric books without ad interruptions, lock your screen, or use other apps while the narration plays, and even download the ebook version to follow along as you listen. Listen on your computer via web browser, or download the app from the Play Store. After subscribing, you will receive an email with your login details, password, and step-by-step instructions on how to access the books through the Hotmart app.